La mañana de este miércoles 4 de febrero, en el Auditorio Nacional de la Ciudad de México, se llevó a cabo la rueda de prensa, en la que se dio a conocer la conferencia que el próximo 5 de mayo cambiará la historia de la investigación OVNI en México y en el mundo. Esto gracias a las impactantes evidencias que presentará Jaime Maussan en el Auditorio Nacional ante 10,000 personas. En esta rueda de prensa estuvo presente vía Skype el astronauta Edgar Mitchell, el sexto hombre en pisar la Luna, quien respondió amablemente a la prensa.
Dos slides separados de todos los demás. Evidentemente se trataba de seres no humanos, por lo cual se inició desde el año 2008 una investigación. Esta investigación habría de concluir en el año 2014 cuando se pudo confirmar, no solamente a través de testigos presenciales, el único testigo presencial que vive y que confirmó que los seres que aparecen en las fotografías son los seres que fueron recuperados en Roswell Nuevo México. Además, los expertos de la Kodak certificarían que estas imágenes corresponden a los años de entre 1947 por el tipo de película y 1949, que fue cuando se dejó de usar el envoltorio tradicional para esa década de los slides. Entonces yo les pregunté cuándo se iban a dar a conocer y entonces me dijeron que cuando estuviera lista la investigación, que ellos no sabían cuándo. Tuve la oportunidad de saber que Edgar Mitchell había estado durante el evento, que él pues de alguna manera hablaba abiertamente de Roswell como un caso real, y consideré que podría reunir todo esto. Les hice la propuesta. Sin embargo, la negociación tardó más de un año. Fue hasta noviembre del 2014, cuando ellos aceptaron. Yo les había propuesto a ellos que se presentara esto en un programa de televisión especial en Hollywood, en una cadena en los medios de los Estados Unidos. No pudieron llegar a un acuerdo, ya es cuestión de ellos, no sé por qué no llegaron, y en ese momento yo volví a hacer una oferta y entonces...
Jaime Maussan presenta Bewitness, sé testigo. México fue seleccionado para presentar las evidencias que demuestran que en julio de 1947, una nave con seres de otros planetas cayó en Roswell, Nuevo México. El 5 de mayo de 2015, en el Auditorio Nacional de la Ciudad de México, ante 10,000 personas, se presentarán las pruebas que han sido esperadas por casi 68 años. Una investigación desarrollada en secreto durante los últimos 5 años ha confirmado los hechos. En 1998, en una casa que iba a ser demolida en Sedona, Arizona, fue descubierta una caja con transparencias. Entre ellas fueron encontradas algunas donde se podía ver a personajes como Bing Crosby, Clark Gable e incluso el general Dwight David Eisenhower antes de ser presidente. Las transparencias Kodachrome fueron almacenadas por 10 años más, hasta que en 2008, la caja, afectada por la humedad, se partió en pedazos. Ahí, de manera inesperada, se descubrieron 2 fotografías de lo que parecen ser seres de características no humanas, literalmente, de extraterrestres. Las fotografías fueron analizadas por expertos, quienes pudieron determinar que habrían sido tomadas entre 1947 y 1949 por el tipo de película y la forma de envoltura característica de los slides de Kodak en esos años. Se consideró que las imágenes podrían corresponder a los cuerpos de seres extraterrestres que habrían sido recuperados en Roswell, de acuerdo a las declaraciones de decenas de testigos que afirman haber visto a estos seres. Más tarde se presentarían estas imágenes a uno de los testigos que observó directamente a los cadáveres extraterrestres, quien confirmaría que las imágenes corresponden a los seres recuperados en Roswell. En julio de 1947, la Fuerza Aérea de los Estados Unidos anunció haber recuperado una nave extraterrestre en Roswell. Algunas horas después, rectificaría y anunciaría que se trataba de un globo meteorológico, una versión que ha cambiado al menos en 4 ocasiones distintas. Los investigadores y autores de libros como Witness to Roswell, Don Schmidt y Tom Carey han realizado entrevistas a más de 600 testigos indirectos, así como 150 testigos directos, y están convencidos de que en Roswell cayó una nave que no era de la Tierra. Los cuerpos fueron llevados a distintas bases militares, así como las partes de la nave, donde muy posiblemente permanecen hasta el presente. Hasta el día de hoy, a pesar de las declaraciones de militares retirados, incluso testimonios firmados en el lecho de muerte, no se habían encontrado las evidencias definitivas que demuestren que todo es verdad. Las transparencias con las imágenes de los seres extraterrestres serán presentadas en México el 5 de mayo en el Auditorio Nacional por primera ocasión en una gran exclusiva mundial. Dichas evidencias podrían demostrar que los hechos fueron reales. Don Schmidt y Tom Carey, los investigadores más importantes del caso de Roswell, consideran que las imágenes corresponden a los hechos. También estará en el evento en el Auditorio Nacional Edgar Mitchell, el sexto hombre que caminó sobre la Luna y que casualmente vivía en Roswell cuando sucedieron los hechos. Mitchell también está convencido que el gobierno de los Estados Unidos ha ocultado esta información. Mitchell ha realizado su propia investigación en torno a los hechos ocurridos en Roswell y la dará a conocer en este magno evento. Se presentará Adam Dew, periodista que ha investigado durante los últimos años la autenticidad de las imágenes y ha concluido que éstas corresponden a la misma época del incidente de Roswell. Adam Dew no solo investigó las imágenes, sino a aquellos que estuvieron en contacto directo con los cadáveres extraterrestres. En el evento del 5 de mayo en el Auditorio Nacional se utilizará tecnología tridimensional y holográfica para dar un mayor realce a las imágenes. Tecnología nunca antes presentada en un evento de características similares. Es decir, que se dará vida a los seres para poderlos ver no solo como eran en realidad, sino verlos en movimiento. Un evento de características únicas que marcará un antes y un después en la investigación del fenómeno extraterrestre. En el evento del 5 de mayo en el Auditorio Nacional se realizará un homenaje a Edgar Mitchell, considerado por muchos como el más destacado de los astronautas que caminaron sobre la Luna, por todos los logros obtenidos a partir de ese momento. Bewitness. Sé testigo.
Now, has this been released to the public?
No, not yet.
And the government knows you have this?
I don't know if the government knows.
The military?
I don't know if anyone knows.
As in, you're not scared of it?
Here's what I know so far. Several months ago, I was given a box of 400 color Kodachrome slides that appear to have been taken over a 10-year period starting in the mid-1940s. Two of the slides show what appears to be a small, thin body with a large head in a glass case. All of the photos are part of a collection that belonged at one point to Hilda Blair Ray and her husband Bernard. There aren't many people still alive who knew Hilda and Bernard, but I have been able to piece a few things together. The Rays had no children. They traveled extensively from their home in Midland, Texas, where Hilda was an attorney and an amateur pilot, and Bernard a geologist working in the oil industry. In 1946, Bernard was the president of the West Texas Geological Society. Mixed in with dozens of vacation shots are several unique color photos from the 1948 National Air Races in Cleveland, Ohio, and the 1948 U.S. Open Golf Tournament in Los Angeles. They captured rare color shots of Sam Snead and even Bing Crosby and Clark Gable. There are also stunning close-up shots of then General Eisenhower on a victory whistle-stop tour following World War II. There are dozens more photos that together paint a picture of a very interesting, well-traveled, and possibly well-connected couple. And then there are these last two photos that just don't seem to fit with the rest of the collection. Now, I'm a sports guy. I cover sports for a living. I'm not making any claims as to what exactly is in these two slides. The story is still coming together, but at this point I can comfortably say that the slides are unaltered originals and that they were taken between 1939 and 1949. The body is exceptionally thin and is between 36 and 48 inches long. The head appears to be larger than its torso and has some very unusual features. I'm starting to show the slides to people, having them examined by experts in photography and forensics and anthropology.
It'd be hard to fake the design of the slide the stamps, all that other stuff on here. I mean, it'd be really, really hard to fake that or duplicate that if you were trying to.
I even showed them to Neil deGrasse Tyson, who understandably was less than convinced.
So, okay, so maybe it's a real alien that landed. Fine. I don't have a problem with that. Come back later when you got it.
Fair enough, Dr. Tyson. And then there's this guy, who was an Army lieutenant at Roswell Air Force Base in July of 1947.
It looks identical, or a good copy. If this is a copy, I just saved, if this is a copy, they did pretty good.
And then when you start to do a 3D recreation of the body in the photo, that's when things start to get, well, a little strange. Logic tells me it's probably nothing, but I simply can't shake the thought that maybe, just maybe, it's something. One of my good friends, who I've known for a long time, came to me with a box of slides. And he said, I don't know what to do with these. I think there's some interesting pictures in here I think you should take a look at. Didn't tell me the whole story right out of the gate, and showed me these pictures that his sister had saved from going into a landfill in Arizona. These slides were in a garage in Arizona, and she was cleaning out this house. The house was going to be prepped for an estate sale, and so she was charged with taking a bunch of stuff to the dump. And she opened the box, she looked through some of the slides, she liked what some of them looked like, and then she threw them in her garage. So the slides were first discovered in 1998, and the woman who found the slides didn't even look at them again for 10 years, till late 2008. And once she started looking at them, she said, wow, there's pictures of President Eisenhower, there's pictures of Bing Crosby, pictures of Clark Gable, famous golfers in these slides. And they're beautiful pictures, and then from all over the world, from Montreal, from Paris, from Germany, from Los Angeles, like all over the world. And she then discovered underneath the slides, the box had been in her garage. The slide box had been in Kat's garage for a long time, and so it had gotten wet on the bottom, and the box started to come apart. And as the box came apart, she noticed there were two slides that were wrapped and hidden under the rest of the slides. She pulled those out and she unwrapped them, and there were two slides, nearly identical, of a body that looked like what the average person, when they look at it, thinks of as an alien. What we've been conditioned to think of is an alien. Everybody that you show the slides to, skeptic or non-skeptic, says, this is what I think an alien's supposed to look like. So when you take those two slides, which were hidden under the rest of the slides, with the rest of the collection, you know you have this interesting story to tell. And so then we started to try to unravel the mystery.
Mexican people should expect from this event.
They will have a major education on the Roswell incident. They will come to walk away with certainly a greater understanding of the people who were there, the people who were involved. They will understand why it was covered up at that time. And I think they will also see why it still remains covered up after all this time, and why we've had such very little cooperation from within the United States government to divulge the truth. They will certainly come away, as the old line from the original Christopher Reeve Superman movie, you will believe a man can fly. Well, after this presentation in Mexico City in May, you will believe that Roswell indeed did happen.
How important is this?
It will certainly be the most important event in our lifetimes, because we are demonstrating not only photographic evidence, but we're also demonstrating what all these witnesses have reported to us collectively through all these years. And as a result, we will also be naming and pointing out one by one all of these people who, if still alive, would be able to say, that's exactly what I saw back in July of 1947. That's what makes it also important, because we're speaking for them. We're still, even as their voices cry out from the graves, we're speaking in their behalf.
Then the Mexican people will become witness to.
They will become first-hand witnesses to the slides, correct.
And witnesses to probably the greatest story of all times.
One of the greatest stories of all time. I always say of the millennium, so in the last 1,000 years.
I grew up in Roswell, that is true. Roswell and, let's say, in the Pecos Valley, which includes Roswell and Artesia, and the area in between where we had one of our ranches and farms.
And in 1947, something extraordinary happened near Roswell.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh yes, I read it in the newspaper. On the day it reached the newspaper, it was said an alien spacecraft has crashed and bodies recovered. And the next day, thanks to the Air Force and the military, they hushed it up and said, no, it was a weather balloon. And so the story, my reaction was, oh, it's a weather balloon. I went off to college and forgot about it until I came back from the moon and went out to lecture because I was invited to speak at Roswell. I had friends and family there. And some of the people, for example, the undertaker who provided coffins for the alien bodies, I think it was either his son or a grandson, or no, a granddaughter, came to me and said that her grandfather had provided coffins for the bodies of the aliens. And so the story that the Air Force had put out obviously was there was a hoax. Was a hoax. And then another person whose ancestor, I don't know, father had been a sheriff's deputy that managed traffic around the crash site to keep people away from the crash site. He told his story to me, that yes, that's what his father did. And then we did have a friend of the family who was a major at the Walker Air Force Base at Roswell. The Walker was a new Air Force base at that point in time. But this officer was a friend of our family. He shared office space with Jesse Marcel, who was the officer that was out at the crash site and brought the bodies back. Now, I knew young Jesse, his son, very well. He just passed away last week or so, 2 weeks ago. And his daughter called me and told me about it. But those three people, the major in the Air Force, the descendant of the undertaker, the descendant of the sheriff's deputy, all told me their story when I went back to Roswell after going to the moon, and people invited me to give lectures about my moon experience. And they came and told me their experience, which had been covered up by the military for a little 40 years. And the point was the military had changed their story about every 5 years or so. So if any one of them had been correct, it would have been okay, it would have been enough. But there were at least 5 different stories as to what happened at the Roswell crash. Oh, well, I realized that what the people were telling me about the coffins and about the sheriff's deputy and the major, who was also a friend of Marcel, those were the true stories, and I realized that. And I did go to the Pentagon with that story in 1997. And the admiral who was chief of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff in the United States listened to our story and said, I don't know anything about it, but I'll find out. Now here it goes. When he tried to find out, he was told, you don't need to know. And that has happened, the cover-up has happened throughout many, many countries until recently, starting to uncover.
This is probably one of the greatest stories of all times. And you were there.
I was there, yeah.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel about the cover-up and this happening?
Oh, well, the whole, to me, I didn't think that at the time. I thought it was government cover-up. It really isn't. It's bigger than that.
They are going to present now the pictures of the so-called aliens that were recovered in Roswell.
That's great. But of course, as far as I know, the aliens were the little grays. There apparently are other species of alien too that have visited here. Those are the more prominent. But I'm not convinced that those, in fact, I'm pretty sure those are not the only species that have visited us.
What people should think about this? I mean,
Pardon?
how we should accept this new reality, that they are here?
Well, let me give you an analogy. Let's go back a few thousand years, and you grew up in a tribe in a mountain area, and you didn't know that there was anybody else. And one day you went across the mountain, and here's another village over there, and you didn't know it existed. That's kind of the same way here. Only we're talking about people from a totally different space system.
Why the scientists don't want to accept that?
Pardon?
Why the scientists don't want to accept that?
Well, I don't know that scientists don't want to accept that. Maybe some don't, but a scientist with any foresight or any brains does accept it. There's a lot of us that accept it.
No te pierdas esta espectacular conferencia Bewitness, próximo 5 de mayo del 2015 en el Auditorio Nacional. Boletos en Ticketmaster.